people want to defend their own position under a government that is authoritative.
Welcome on another episode, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you all for your constant support. I see them and I do not take it for granted. There is a Black American man online calling out the people who have been defending Beyonce. If you don't know what is going on, Beyonce recent fashion choice, putting on a shirt that has the Buffalo Soldiers boldly printed on it and releasing a statement calling the Native Americans the enemies of peace, has sparked a lot of conversation. So many Native Americans are angry. So many fans of Beyonce are defending Beyonce as well, talking about people just finding any tiny thing to cancel her. This African American man is questioning these people, saying if the Latinos had come for them and called them the enemies of peace, would they have still been supporting her? Would they have still been saying what they have been saying, since they have been supporting Beyonce for calling the Native Americans the enemies of peace? Some are even in the comment section talking about how she needs to apologize to them. But the history behind all of this is so messy. If you haven't checked out the last two videos that I posted, kindly go check it. That has more information going on with a summary of the history between all of these people involved. This man and other creators have so much to get off of their chest. I have put together their videos, so without wasting much time, let's get into it.
If a Latino told you that African Americans were the enemies of peace, order, and settlement, would you defend that? If an indigenous person told you that African Americans were the enemies of peace, order, and settlement, would you defend that? If an Asian American told you that African Americans were the enemies of peace, order, and settlement, would you defend that? If a white person told you that African Americans were the enemies of peace, order, and settlement, would you defend that? Because apparently you would. And mind you, this isn't a situation where a Fox News reporter got the facts wrong and, tapped into their misogyny war bag. Like, nah, this is just a situation where Beyonce is wrong for doing this. She's 100% in the wrong for not vetting this and for even showing up, popping out with that shirt on in the first place. And yet, still, excuses, false equivalencies run amok. There's even talk about how Native Americans own slaves. And I'm not denying that some Native Americans own slaves, because that's objectively true. But the way that this talking point is being used, especially in this moment, is so funny to me, because it's coming from the same group of people that hated when other races and ethnic groups categorize all black people as one monolithic group. And the same group of people who hate when that happens are the exact same people categorizing all Native Americans as one monolithic group. Mind you, we're talking about thousands of tribes with their own customs, languages, and ways of thinking. And yet, we're just going to conveniently put them all into one monolithic group to say that they all did this, they were all engaged in this, therefore, Beyonce's actions are excused in full. I also love hearing the excuse that this Buffalo Soldiers t-shirt was taken from a website, written by AI, and Beyonce didn't release the merch. Like, that doesn't make it worse, because you're a Beyonce fan. When have you known Beyonce to half-ass anything? You know this. I know this. Her and her team are well known to vet everything, to go over every single meticulous detail. That's what makes her albums amazing, her art amazing, her music amazing, her stage presence and performances amazing. And yet she let this slide? And then didn't even add in the nuance of the Buffalo Soldiers and how they were enslaved and psychologically set up to fight for the U.S. empire, which makes the whole thing so much more worse and horrible when you really put it into context, when you add in the nuance of white people putting an enslaved, oppressed class against another enslaved, oppressed class, all to benefit white people at the end. But no, accountability must be dodged because Beyonce is dropping a rock album next. So prepare for nothing else to come out of this but excuses, false equivalences, and talking points that just lack nuance entirely.
The way some black leftists get on here and talk about history, you think nuance beat the fuck out of them every day and stole their lunch money. Because how do you get on here for a full minute, lambaste the Buffalo Soldiers and say they were nothing but tools of imperialism and expect us to take you seriously? Because if I was to ask that same person how they felt about black people enlisting in the military now, they would have grace for those people because they know recruiters take advantage of vulnerable communities. And how can you know that and think the newly freed slaves had more options? Like, oh my God, the people that enlisted in the military were used as tools of imperialism? No shit. That's been the point of the U.S. military since the U.S. military's inception. Who else do you want to bash? The Tuskegee Airmen? Because they didn't just fly wartime missions. Like, good Lord, do you not feel stupid criticizing the people caught up in the system more than you criticize the system? Was Beyonce's shirt terrible? Yes, but it wasn't terrible because it talked about the Buffalo Soldiers. It was terrible because of how reductionist it was. That's why it's not just important to know the facts of history, it's important to know the nuance of it. Because y'all get on here and criticize every little step it took for us to get to progress like you expected us to teleport to here.
The conversation about the Buffalo Soldiers and Beyonce kind of reminds me about how, like, people want to defend their own position under a government that is authoritative. Like, to call the Buffalo Soldiers out is to also call out black people within America, because the way we live in our daily life is also supplemented by the outsourcing of labor and war in other countries. It makes us sitting look bad, but it does make us look bad. That's shitty, ain't it? That, unfortunately, the circumstances that bring us here also have us under the thumb of people that have done not even very shitty things, like ancient, universally, like, invasive things. Like, cycles of this world have, like, changed permanently because of the actions of white enslavers. I mean, you talking about the worst people from Europe came to the coast, tricked niggas on the boats, lied to them, caused chaos in the regions, took all these people, brought them to America, and had them do their bidding. I mean, what a lot of black folks are upset about is the fact that we were used as pawns, and that still happens to this day. That's the issue with voting as a Democrat. You still being used as a pawn for niggas that don't care about you. And so this conversation honestly doesn't have shit to do with the Buffalo Soldiers for real. Because, well, it does. It does. And Native genocide should not be ignored. But what I'm saying is this conversation has a lot more to do with people feeling internally that an indictment of the Buffalo Soldiers is an indictment of them. And in some way it is. Because it's disorienting living in a country that daily, as a black person, tries to subjugate you, but at the same time, the way you live is propped up by the exploitation of other people. So you're getting exploited here, and just your daily livings that keep you a living, willing, and afloat come from other outsourced labor. Like, these white folks have touched the bases all the way. They've monetized every aspect of hell. So the people getting tortured and the wars is generating money. Everybody suffering is generating them money. That should piss everybody off. Because if people can be subjugated and used for war, no one is safe. Not even the people that point the finger out and, I guess, distribute that violence. You get what I'm saying? And that isn't to be ignorant to this discourse and what it represents. I don't want to talk about a rich black person, because that's just another example of how we can still be subjugated but allowed to participate in the violence of this megastructure. These niggas got us trapped in a burning panopticon. We're all terrified and scared. They got cameras everywhere.
The very first creators video that you guys watch has about close to 3 million views and close to 7,000 comments. And there are so many people in the comment section agreeing to what this man said, which is one of the reasons why I'm sharing it with you guys, because yes, there are different angles to this story. And that is the reason why I said, if you haven't watched the last video that was posted about the story, kind of go watch it. You're going to get more information in that as well. The thing is, the Native Americans aren't totally the victim, and they are not totally a villain. So it just makes the story, the history, very, very messy. Even though, yes, they were used, on the other hand as well, they own slave. Some of them still own slaves. So they weren't totally like clean. And I think this is where some people defending the Buffalo Soldier shirts that Beyonce wore and the history behind it. I think this is where they are coming from, because they feel like the Native Americans are now acting like they are totally clean and they never owned slaves. Some are talking about how they do not have a choice or they were being used. But at the end of the day, the history is what it is. It is messy. I love the creator that brought up the fact that people want to defend their own position under a government that is very authoritative. I feel like this kind of like sum it up and is a very good point. If you have been thinking of, oh, why is this one having a good point? Then you hear from this one as well, and you understand that, oh, they weren't totally like, free. They weren't totally like innocent. They did this and this as well. Like, people are trying to defend their position under the government that is authority. I strongly agree with what that creator said, because yes, it is the truth. What do you guys think about this conversation that has been going on? I feel like it's a conversation that has opened the door of good conversation surrounding the history of the Buffalo Soldiers, even though it is messy because some got so angry and, they were calling on other people, they were dragging other people into it, and it got messy, but there were still some messages and some, knowledge being passed in some of the videos that I have watched. And I hope you guys have been able to grab two things from the stitches that, I have shared with you guys video and the other two videos as well. So I really want to hear what you guys think if you have been following this conversation. This person said, literally, I am a Beyonce fan, arguing with other fans on why she should apologize and who she should apologize to. Like, what the hell are we talking about? Oh my God. Another person said, she's so intentional with her heart until she's not intentional. So, very convenient, because people are saying, no, it's not a big deal, it's just a shirt, they should get over it. They're just looking for the slightest thing to cancel her. I think this comment is referring to the people talking about that, and this comment has about 11,300 likes. So there are so many people as well agreeing to what this person said. Another person said, Beyonce's shirt is kind of crazy, but what is even crazier is the amount of people talking over native voices, whether they are offended by it or not, just to defend their favorite celebrity. Another one said, you guys know the song Buffalo Soldiers by Bob Marley. He didn't write it to glorify their participation in colonization. It was a critical reflection of the African diasporic identity and forced assimilation. They quite literally were forced to fight for survival. He pointed out the tragic irony of oppressed fighting for the oppressors against another colonized people. Seems like that went over Beyonce's head. What do you guys think about all of these things that these people are talking about? This history can be very confusing if you do not take out time to actually understand where different people are coming from, because I have been seeing so many stitches from this whole conversation, and I tell you for a fact, if you do not really sit down to understand where they are coming from, or go even check outside of what people are saying, just go browse some certain things online, you might be so confused. If you have been able to get one or two things from this conversation that people have been having regarding this, and if there's one or two things that you want to share as well in the comment section, please feel free to drop it in the comment section. Let me hear what you guys think about this whole conversation, and I am going to see you guys in the next one.